Hello and welcome to the Crusader Nation Vault. I'm Patrick O'Brien, and today I'm going to show you how to create a fake iTunes song like the one shown on the screen right now. These are always fun to do because you can trick your friends into thinking you've released a song onto iTunes when really it was just some clever Photoshop work. Let's get started.
Alright, so we're going to need three images. The first will be a screenshot from your phone of a random album playing. It doesn't particularly matter. The second will be a screenshot of anything with the white bar with the time at the top and your battery and whatnot. And the third will be our album cover. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to crop down our second image that includes the time, and we're going to place it into our file with the album playing. So we'll place that image into our file and we'll resize it to fit at the top of our screen to our liking so that it's most seamless and so that it looks the best in our final product. And that looks about good. And then we'll also want to unlock our background layer for future purposes. And so then next we're going to go to our album cover image, which is, for mine, it is image of Gabe. I'm going to place it onto the file. And so what you want to do is make sure that the layer is below the layer with the time, or else it will cover it up and you won't be able to see it and it will look less realistic. Alright, so now that we've got our image in place, I'm going to go to my toolbar and I'm going to take my eyedropper tool, and if I zoom in on the text that is the title of the song, you will notice that this is actually not black. This is actually a little bit lighter than black. This is a gray color. And I'll bring up the RGB value so that we can use this for our text color later on. So next, we're going to hide our album cover layer so that we can see the original album cover. And we're going to zoom in on the little drop-down circle up here in the top left corner. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold Shift and use our ellipse tool and create an ellipse that is exactly the size of our circle. And so this might take a few tries to get the right size. It might be too big, might be too small. But then once you get the right size, you're going to want to Command X, which is the cut function on your computer, and we're going to take it and we're going to Command V as well to paste it back on into a new layer. And we're going to replace it right in the place where it was before. And now if we put it above the layer in which our album cover is now, and we make our album cover layer visible, then our drop down arrow circle up in the top left corner will appear as if it would if you were playing this on your iPhone. Next, we're going to take our text tool and we're going to create a box that is the full width of our document, because then we have the text completely centered and there's no doubt about it. And so I found that Open Sans 35 point most closely resembles the size and font of the title of a song on an Apple iPhone. And so I'm going to type in my title with these, and I'm going to use that color that I found before with the RGB value that I copied before when I used my eyedropper tool earlier on. So now I'm going to move my text tool around, and I'm going to make sure my text is centered within the box. And now I can go onto my layer and make my text layer invisible just so that it's easier to use. And I can take the clone stamp tool and press Option and left click with my mouse to choose an area that it will be stamping from, and then just cover up the original just with the same color, because this color is somewhat difficult to pinpoint, and so using the clone stamp tool is most efficient here. And so now if I make my text visible again, I have my title. We're just going to select our text and make sure it's that color that we copy pasted before with that RGB value that's on the screen there. And now we're going to create the same effect but for our artist. And so we've got our title, but we also need to change the artist. And so now we're going to take our eyedropper tool once more like we did with our title, and we're going to take the color of the text for the artist, because this is obviously a different gray color. We're going to go to our colors and copy paste that RGB value just like we did previously. The RGB value is on the screen for those watching the tutorial. And we're going to go and take our text tool and create a new text layer and create the text box as wide as the document itself, just like we did with the title once more, so that we get it perfectly centered. And so obviously Open Sans is the type we're going to use again, but this time we're going to be using light instead. And so I am unsure exactly what our font is that we what our font point is that we want. But we're going to type in our RGB value that we copy pasted there. And so we've got the color, but I'm unsure what the font is that we want. So I'm going to take a letter and I'm going to make it a letter that's on my title that's already there. And then I'm going to change the point until it's identical to the letter that's there. So I'm scaling it to this S, and I'm going to move it around until I can get it to the exact same point. And so that's going to be just 25 point. That's 25 point is perfect for our color and for our size of the text. So we're going to be using 25 point Open Sans regular. Excuse me when I said light. We're using regular for the artist title in our fake song on iTunes. And so we'll type in our artist, Gabriel Wasmer, and our dash, and the album, which we'll call Sailors on the Moon single, which is what you can do with most of your albums. You can just call it whatever it is and put parentheses single behind it if you are having a lack of creativity in coming up with the name of an album. Alright, so now once more we're going to hide that text layer that we just created, and we're going to take our clone stamp tool, and we're going to go underneath where our text is, and we're going to option click where we want to take the stamp from, and we're just going to cover it up with our clone stamp tool. And make sure it's not too close or else you'll get the old text in there like I just did, but we're just going to option click and cover up all of it using our clone stamp tool just by scrubbing over each part of the text. Alright, so now that we've clone stamped over our old text, we can make our new text visible again. We can move it back down so that it's properly spaced, to make it look as realistic as possible. And now we have our finished product with our title, our album cover, and our artist name. And we can export this image and put it onto our iPhone or whatnot and show it to your friends and make them think that you have a song out on iTunes, when in reality this is just clever Photoshop work.